This video is brought to you by Brilliant. Since October the 7th, Israel and Hezbollah have been engaged in a low-level but escalating conflict running parallel to the war in Gaza. Both sides have been content with just trading missile strikes so far, and the number of casualties has been relatively limited, at least compared to what's happening in Gaza. However, on Saturday, a Hezbollah missile apparently killed 12 young people on a football pitch in the Golan Heights, provoking an understandably furious reaction from Israel. So in this video, we're going to explain what's happened over the past few days, why an all-out war still looks unlikely in the near future, and why this pattern of escalation is still cause for concern. Before we start, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing and ringing the bell to stay in the loop and be notified when we release new videos. First, a quick primer on Hezbollah. Hezbollah came into existence in the early 1980s in southern Lebanon, when, with the backing of Iran, they became the main opposition to Israel's invasion and occupation. Eventually, after a persistent guerrilla campaign, Israel withdrew from Lebanon in 2000. In 2006, the two sides fought a short but destructive war, in which Hezbollah fought Israel to a standstill, something that helped it solidify its reputation as the region's premier anti-Israel movement. Hezbollah's arsenal has only grown since then, with an estimated 150,000 or so rockets, and the group is often described as the world's most heavily armoured non-state actor. Hezbollah's success here also really encouraged Iran to continue investing in proxies like Hamas and the Houthis. After all, Hezbollah was basically the Iranian regime's first proxy, and its decisive role in expelling Israel from Lebanon meant it would later go on to control much of the country. As an influential political party, Hezbollah now effectively operates a state within a state in Lebanon, controlling much of the Shiite majority areas in southern and eastern Lebanon. Anyway, in the wake of Hamas's October the 7th attack on Israel, Hezbollah launched rockets into Israel, in what was effectively an act of solidarity with Hamas, though Hezbollah said it didn't have any forewarning of Hamas's plan. Since then, on a near-daily basis, Hezbollah and the Israeli military have been exchanging rocket, drone and missile fire across the Israeli-Lebanon border. Before Saturday's strikes, 23 civilians and at least 17 Israeli soldiers had been killed by Hezbollah strikes, and more than 60,000 Israeli civilians displaced from northern Israel. At the same time, at least 100 Lebanese civilians and roughly 350 Hezbollah fighters have been killed by Israeli strikes, and more than 94,000 people in southern Lebanon have fled their homes. Attacks haven't just been limited to the immediate border area either. Hezbollah has, for example, attacked targets as far south as Accra and Tiberias, while Israel carried out a strike on a southern suburb of Beirut earlier this year. Unsurprisingly, the conflict has steadily escalated, with each side firing more and more missiles to match the other. However, things have become increasingly tense in the past couple of months, and Saturday's attack, where a stray rocket killed 12 children playing on a football pitch near the town of Majd al-Shams, was the deadliest loss of life in and around Israel's northern border since October. For context, Majd al-Shams is the largest town in the Golan Heights, which is internationally recognised as part of Syria, but was occupied by Israel following the 1967 Six-Day War, and then effectively annexed in 1981. Around half of the people living in the Golan Heights, and the vast majority of people living in the Majd al-Shams, are from the Druze ethnic group, an Arabic-speaking ethno-religious minority in Israel. Unlike most Jewish Israelis, most of the Druze have refused to evacuate the towns in northern Israel near Lebanon, and all of the children killed on Saturday were Druze. Like most Druze, the children weren't technically Israeli citizens, but rather permanent residents. For context, Druze living in the Golan Heights have been able to take up Israeli citizenship since the region was annexed in 1981, but few accept it. Now, we should say that Hezbollah have denied responsibility for the attack, and instead blamed it on a misfiring rocket from Israel's Iron Dome defense system. However, this looks implausible, largely because, in the hours before it became clear that the strike had hit some children, Hezbollah had triumphantly taken responsibility for a barrage of missiles fired at Israeli positions in the Golan Heights. Most of these missiles were apparently aimed at the IDF military compound on the slopes of Mount Hermon, which lies on the border between the Golan Heights and Lebanon. The base is only about 3 kilometers from the football pitch, and it sits almost on the top of a mountain above the pitch, which means a misaimed rocket could have easily flown down onto the pitch. The blast radius also looks too big for an Iron Dome interceptor, and was more likely caused by an Iranian-made Faluk-1, one of the missiles that Hezbollah announced it had fired in the early hours of Saturday. Iran also seemed to tacitly admit that Hezbollah was behind the attack, but still blamed Israel, arguing that Israel essentially started the war and is therefore responsible for, quote, any unforeseen consequences. Nonetheless, even if it was a misfire, this has still scuppered Hezbollah's ongoing efforts to build good relations with the Druze community, which they've been trying to do for the past few years to limit sectarian fighting between Druze and Hezbollah-aligned Shias in southern Lebanon. Until now, they'd been relatively successful in this respect, not least because, while the Druze have historically had pretty good relations with the Israeli state, they really don't like Netanyahu's government. This became overwhelmingly apparent when Israeli Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich tried to attend the children's funeral on Sunday, only to be chased out. So what happens next? Well, the attack has sparked a predictably hawkish reaction from the Israeli state. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu returned early from his trip to Washington. The IDF fired a barrage of missiles into Lebanon, and the Israeli Foreign Minister warned we're approaching the moment of an all-out war against Hezbollah and Lebanon. Nonetheless, as things stand, an all-out war looks unlikely in the near future. Hezbollah's reaction to the strike and the fact that, in the immediate aftermath, Lebanon's foreign minister relayed a message from Hezbollah saying they would withdraw to behind the Litani River if Israel ended its violation of Lebanese airspace, suggests that Hezbollah is desperate to avoid further escalation. Similarly, even if further strikes are nearly inevitable, the absence of a significant military build-up on the Israeli side suggests the IDF aren't ready for a ground invasion. Nonetheless, this episode builds into a pattern of escalation, and unless the two sides can find a way to de-escalate or sort out some sort of deal, it seems very possible that the IDF will eventually try to establish a buffer zone along the Israeli-Lebanon border, as advocated by the more hawkish elements of the Israeli government. Be sure to keep an eye on this story as it evolves, as much like every area of our lives, this is likely to progress quickly. In fact, if you're feeling left behind by the news cycle and fast developments in AI and tech, you'll want to check out Brilliant. Brilliant is where you learn by doing, with thousands of interactive lessons in maths, data analysis, programming, and AI. Learning a little every day is one of the most important things you can do, both for personal and professional growth. Brilliant helps you build real knowledge in minutes a day, with fun lessons you can do whenever you have time. It's the opposite of mindless scrolling and truly helps you to learn quickly, kind of like TLDR. One course I've found to be particularly interesting was their course on large language models. We hear a lot about AI and large language models in the news, but Brilliant helped me actually get hands-on with real language models as you explore how they build vocabulary, choose their next word, and more. They also helped me grasp the importance of training data by comparing models trained on Taylor Swift lyrics to models trained on a cookbook or big text terms and conditions. If you want to learn more and understand the world around you better, whether that's in order to get a job in AI or just to understand what everyone's talking about, you can try everything that Brilliant has to offer for free for a full 30 days. Visit brilliant.org/TLDR or click on the link in the description. Plus, you'll also get 20% off an annual premium subscription. Thanks for watching and to Brilliant for sponsoring this video.